biggest question we get every year
on our 100-acre farm:
when should you harvest your garlic?
We grow just about 10,000 bulbs of garlic, and we've been doing it for several years. And these are some of the tips and tricks that I have found that work the best. We plant our garlic in the fall with just a toe. Each toe makes a whole bulb of garlic. At home in your garden, it's not that bad to plant them by hand, but when you're doing thousands, you're gonna want a planter like this one. This is an old tobacco planter, and it saves us a ton of time.
I just hit my elbow really hard. Oh.
So the whole point of making rows is obviously so he can know where to plant and keep it straight, as long as he makes straight rows. But also he's putting fertilizer in here. That way the garlic has basically a jump start. This isn't all of it, but it's a good chunk of the garlic toes. Every box is just about the same fullness. So Mom, Dad, Sammy, and myself are gonna get it started. Obviously it's really just a 3-person process, but with it being such a small toe, it's not like a big plant. You have to bend over further. It really hurts your back. So we keep switching out so nobody gets too tired or too fatigued. Looks like they're getting them in the ground deep enough. And they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're coming back. I think they're 6th row now. We have 12 rows to do all together, or that's if we decide to fill them all. I know the tractor is going at a pretty decent speed and we can't go any slower, meaning that we might not be getting quite the amount of toes per row, but if that's the case, we'll just do an extra row or two. Not that big of a deal. Just for reference, so this is one of the toes, and how the planter works is a shoe goes through and it makes a ditch. And basically what Sammy and Mom are doing is they're going back and forth. Each of them have a bulb or a toe, and they place that toe in the ground just like that, as straight as you possibly can, root side down, tail up, and then the ground will then, or the shoe will then close back up, covering that toe. And you want it to be about 1 inch to 2 inches underneath the soil, right there. Well, actually I kind of just drug it sideways, but you want it to stay put like that. If you have it like this, your garlic is going to grow crooked, or it might not grow at all. So this is all the toes. They each have about the same amount in each bin. And just like I was saying, that shoe is down in there, making that groove in the ground. And then they just put that toe right in there and then covers it back up. Basically, they're just playing as fast as they can.
But they get very slippery. Like that.
Drop one. Hopefully I can do it without knocking them over. Right there. Now, we always like to go with like the fist thumb rule, whatever you want to call that. It's like 6 inches, 6 to 8 inches. So there's one. You can see the tail just sticking out there. Boy, the ground's cold. And then we will, oh, right there. That's actually a little bit close. That's more like 4 inches. Basically, you want to give it enough room so the bulbs can get to a good size and not be crowding each other out. Now, where is the next one? Oh, right there. So it's never perfect, obviously. I mean, we're humans, we're not machines. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. This is a little far, this is a little close. All right, that's it.
1,035.
That's what you got, so that means there's actually 2,060.
What?
Or is that both?
No.
Oh, okay. So that's good. 1,000 a row. 10 rows, we'll get 10,000 bulbs, which is what we kind of shoot for every year. Now, after planting in the fall, basically you're gonna do nothing. You're gonna maybe cover it with some straw, maybe cover it with some grass clippings, some leaves, whatever you want to suppress those weeds and to keep the really cold temperatures off it through all the winter months. We're gonna start strawing our garlic and maybe strawberries today. Don't want to fall through there or there. So this is what we call the straw mow. Back there is when we harvest the garlic. That's where it's going to go. So he's going to back the tractor in here. I'm going to throw him off right on the wagon and then we'll start again. Just went out the road, blew as far as we could across. This is the end of the field, so we're gonna have to come back through here now and finish it off. But all in all, it's doing good. The garlic is really starting to grow right down the row now, which we covered it, and I'm kind of standing in the sunlight, but you can see the little green tops coming up through here. There's another one. We need 40 more bales and then we're gonna finish it off. That's what we think we're gonna need. It's not really windy at all, but if it does get windy, we can't do it. So hopefully the wind doesn't pick up. And that's it. Then in the spring, it should start poking up through. Again, you're not gonna do much of anything besides just watch it grow. After your garlic gets around a foot high, what you're gonna wanna do, or what we do, is we go through and we fertilize it all the way down each row by hand, because we don't wanna make any more weeds in between the rows than we absolutely need to.
That looks so nice, don't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
putting like 8 pound on each row. And I think these are like 300 or 400 foot rows. I don't think it's 500. And so you've got to literally run through the field as fast as possible and lightly sprinkle it on, so that way you have enough to get to the end, or else you're not getting even distribution. Also, that might not seem like a lot, but we're literally putting this directly on the bulb of garlic. We're not putting it between the rows, that way we're not making the weeds grow. Here we go. We're just about done. This job takes like literally a half hour. Because like I said, we're running through the field almost. Putting this on because as slow as you can sprinkle it and as fast as you can walk usually gets you just about to the end. We almost never have extra. Then after fertilizing, again, all you're gonna do is watch it grow until your scapes start to come out. And then if you haven't grown garlic before, you're gonna ask, what's a scape? A scape is basically like a sucker on a tomato plant. And what that sucker does, it sucks nutrients, just like this scape does. And so what we do is we go through by hand with a pair of clippers and we clip off every single one down every single row. So for those of you who have not been following along, this is our garlic field. I haven't actually done this job in years. And if you have your own garden, your own garlic, you should be doing this also. And that is what you're gonna do right there. This is your garlic scape. It's got like that little bulb on the top. And if you let it go too long, this will actually stand straight up in the air about 2 foot above the garlic, and it'll get like a little seed pod on it. But right now is like perfect time. We even could have done it like a week ago. And what this does is sucks nutrients from the garlic. So we wanna get that off, that way it can put all of it right to the bulb, making it bigger. It doesn't seem to matter how good of a job we do. We always miss one or two, but it's very simple, very easy. Just going through and cutting them off. Now, Dad actually had me bring a bucket, which I don't think I'm gonna use, to put these into. Some people actually eat these, but I have never done that. We could sell them. We've actually tried, but you gotta really know what you're doing with them because not many people even know what they are. So I just got my first 2 rows done. That's this row and this row. Look even closer, you can actually see like a clear difference between the two. This is like a tangled mess, and now it's like kind of cleaned up a little bit. So I got 8 more rows to go. It takes me about an hour to do 2, so a half hour a row, which isn't bad. When cutting them, we try and go about as close as we can to the nearest, like I would say, I don't know if you call that a leaf or whatever you call that, coming off of the scape, or like the main stem. So like the scape comes down nice and smooth, there's the first leaf, and then usually like 1 inch to 2 inches I cut it above that. After about an hour or so, you'll see right where you cut is like scabbed over already, which is exactly what you want so it heals properly and then dries out. Because once you cut them, they're like oozing wet for like a half hour, and then they finally start to dry. About 30 more feet to go. Now these guys can finish off growing, and it's only gonna be a couple weeks and we'll be harvesting. I'm really excited because we have that new lifter. We always borrowed our cousin's. Now we got our own, and I'm excited to get that going. For fun, let's just pull one out here and see what they're looking like. Not bad. I mean, I really hope it's gonna get about double that size yet, but that's really nice. So now this is back to present time, and you can see how this one was missed. And as I was saying, after they get through that curly Q stage, they stand straight up when they're more mature, and this is what they look like. And so that's why now I'm expecting this bulb to be smaller than everyone right around it. Now, is a small bulb of garlic bad? No, but especially for us being farmers and taking this to market to sell, we want a big bulb so we can get the most money that we possibly can. And right here is a nice example of a garlic scape and without a garlic scape. Look at the difference between this guy and this guy that have garlic scapes cut off back when the scapes were nice and small, and then this guy with the garlic scape. Big difference. So cut your garlic scapes off, and you can even eat those. I never have, but we've heard of many customers that do, and they absolutely love them. I guess you just chop them up and you can put them with maybe like beans, stuff like that. I heard it's very delicious. A couple weeks after your garlic scapes get cut, that's when you kind of reach this stage right here. Now, depending on how much time you have, is how nice you can have the area around your garlic. Us being farmers, farming many different vegetables and doing greenhouses and having a farm market and all that good stuff, don't really have time to take care of every single weed. So you see a weed here and there. Well, actually quite a few weeds here and there. If you have a garden and you have the time to go around and weed everything, great. But this is kind of what ours looks like every single year. Not real bad, but bad enough to where we don't want it any worse. And so it's now just about time for harvest, as you can see by some of these bulbs I just pulled out here. Are they gonna still grow more? Yes, a little bit, but not crazy. And so that's when you're gonna wanna start thinking about the harvest. Many customers ask us every year, when do I harvest my garlic? Actually, number one question is, when do we plant? And then when do we know when to harvest? For us, we like to harvest once the leaves start to get pretty yellow, almost like half the leaf. You can see now how they're just starting to get a brown tip, meaning you could harvest and it probably will just dry fine, but you still have some growing to do, and there's a chance you could get a little bit bigger bulb. If you pull out too early, that bulb is just gonna rot and it's not gonna dry properly. So we probably have about a week to 3 weeks here to where we're gonna let these grow a little bit longer. We'll start to harvest now, but we're not gonna do our big harvest for a couple weeks yet. And that is gonna require going through with our, what we call a plastic lifter, to pick up every single bulb. That way we're not putting any stress on the plant. So I just got out here to the garlic field with our new plastic lifter. Pretty excited. And so basically these shoes in the back are gonna go up under the garlic. It's not really gonna pull it out of the ground, but it's gonna loosen it so it's easy to just pop out then by hand. And then the discs are gonna go on each side and cut any like the viney stuff, kind of like this weed right here. This is really bad in the garlic. We struggle with it every year. This year we took care of it better than ever, but still, it's a little bit of an issue, but I don't think it's gonna be too bad. So we're about halfway through a row. Everything's going really good. Kind of like I expected though with this wetter soil. We're gonna do 4 rows. Garlic is so deeply rooted that you can't just pull it out by hand. I mean, you maybe can, but it's really not good for it. You're putting a lot of stress on the garlic bulb itself. And so it's better to use a fork or a shovel or, well, in our case, a lifter when we have so many. And so you can see basically what it's doing is it's taking that garlic and it's picking it up and then it's like laying it back down. To my idea, when garlic is lifted properly, it should almost appear to where it wasn't even dug up. Like you can tell it's laying sideways a little bit, but it's still pretty well standing. And that's how you know you dug it up enough so where you can easily pull it out, but yet you're not disturbing the actual bulb and putting any stress on the head. When you pull a bulb out just like this and it just rains so it pulls out pretty easy, you don't realize it, but you're actually putting stress on that bulb, which we have found out over the years of doing it. And so that's why we use a lifter to lift it up out and basically break those roots free from the ground. Now here he's building up with some weeds, which I'll try and pull out. There we go. We tried to take better care of the weeds this year, so that way that didn't become a problem. And it's looking like it's working pretty well, for the most part. So obviously you've seen they just helped to get all of this garlic out of the ground. This is 2 full rows. I am really happy with the size. Really happy with just the timing, getting them out of the ground. They're not splitting, they're not yellow, they're nice and white. And once they dry, you'll be able to shuck that outside dirty layer right off, kind of like you can see me doing already right there. And then right here on the ends are, I think it's like a red garlic, and you can kind of see it more there in like that bulb. It's smaller. I don't know where my mom got them from, but there's some there and some over there. But obviously, as you can see, there's a ton of garlic here. I'd like to get them separated, like laid out in the barn so they can dry better, but I just don't have time for that right now. After your garlic is then harvested, you're gonna have lots and lots of roots with big clumps of dirt. So we just go through and we literally just shake all the roots off and get the worst of it off, so it's like this. That's when we'll store it in our barn right over there to dry. Now you can store it in your basement, you can store it in your garage, wherever, just so that it can dry somewhere properly. Make sure it's not too damp. But I probably also wouldn't leave it right in the direct sunlight either. Somewhere like a darker, just, airy place. If you leave your garlic in the ground too long and the whole thing starts to get yellow and then you harvest, you're not gonna have garlic that's really too bad unless you've let it in for months too late and it's actually rotting down there. What'll happen is, and I'm only telling you all this from our own experience, you're gonna have a garlic bulb that is more yellow, it's cracked, it's not as nice, it kind of just falls apart, especially if you're selling it, it's not near as desirable. And so that's why it's pretty crucial to get it out of the ground in that 2 to 3 week period. After your garlic dries, it's basically good to go. You don't have to do anything with it. We always cut our tops off because that's the way our customers want to buy it. They don't want that big, crumply yellow top on there, because once it's dried properly, it should be very crispy and it'll kind of make a mess. Our garlic then will last anywhere from, well, when we harvest it, which is mid-July, to mid-December. It even goes a little bit longer than that, depending on where you stored it, how you had it stored. Hey, pups. Hi. Where were you guys at? But that's what we have seen. Garlic can only last a couple weeks in storage if you're not storing it in the right proper place. Don't store it in the fridge. Definitely not the right place to store it. And that's basically the process of how we harvest our garlic.